Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Testing 1 2, testing 3 4. Why would my audio have dropped? Interesting. Testing 1 2. Testing 3 4. Is it back now? I found something unplugged that's never been unplugged before. Here, but low. Hang on. Something happened to my sound. How's that? Can you hear me all right? Good to go, everybody says. Here, but low. Echo. There shouldn't be an echo. There was for a couple of seconds when the old stream software kicked in and I turned that off. So hopefully, is everybody who's listening, can you hear me now? It's all good? Good. Fantastic. All right. Sorry about that. That's weird because on my soundboard, there's a bunch of wires plugged in. I saw one way in the back that's never unplugged. It's not been unplugged for the 5 years I've had that soundboard sitting here. So that's interesting. So anyway, I was going to say welcome to the program. And those of you who are listening in other areas, you may have experienced the same loss of sound, hopefully not. And if you did, come on over. If you want to join the chat room, you can come on over to our chat room over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And that's where, even though we are broadcasting on YouTube, we're broadcasting on X, we're broadcasting on Instagram, we're broadcasting in 2 places in Facebook. Still, the best place to interact with the chat room is going to be over on my YouTube channel. So, yes, Scotty Roberts and the Intrepids. So says Sean Stroik. All right, tonight I'm going to do a topic tonight that as I was starting to say when we realized my mic wasn't working. Is it working now? I'm not seeing my sound here. Testing. Yeah, okay. I've got a little jump in levels. It's just weird. Just going to make sure everything's plugged in tightly. So you just let me know if there's any reason you're not hearing this, just so I know what's going on my end. All right. We hear you, Scotty Roberts, says Sean Stark. Fantastic. All right. So this is a topic tonight that I'm I am not a medical doctor, nor do I dispense medical advice, nor do I really dig deep into medical anything. The closest I get to medical is when I've talked about, the vax, the pandemic, things that have happened to me and all of that. That's as close as I can get, and I don't even know that much about them even then. So tonight, I'm going to talk about something that was a bit of a surprise to me, and it's a bit of a mystery. And it's a mystery even to science as to how it works. But before I go there, I'll just talk about the elephant in the room, my eyes. I had, as you all know, I had some eye surgery last week, and so they're healing up now. They're not fully healed, as you can tell. It was so bruised and swollen, I could see. My vision is perfect, but my eyes were so swollen shut, it was very hard to see. I couldn't go driving anywhere, and I certainly couldn't do the show. And I was on some drugs for a couple of days, so I took a couple of days off. And they're starting to get better, believe it or not. You're seeing the bruising that's left over, and still stitches that have to heal up all over here. Somebody asked me, did you get a facelift? And I said, well, it's kind of like that, but it's a different thing. It's called blepharoplasty, something like that. And it's when they did the cataract surgery on my eyes 3-4 months ago. What that can tend to do is loosen up the muscles in your eyelids, and you can start to get lazy eye. And one of my eyes, I don't remember which one it was even. I was getting a little bit of a lazy eye. And the doctor looked at it and he said, you're getting a little bit of a lazy eye. And I said, oh, what do we do about that? Well, they have to then go in and tighten up the muscles again. But in order to do that, they have to remove strips of skin from my eyelids. And I said, you know what? I said, if it's going to make me look like I've had a facelift or something, I'm not going to do it. I said, I don't want to alter my face. It's for good or bad. And he said, no, it won't do anything like that. You'll have a little tiny scar that you'll barely be able to see. Okay. Because they cut, as you can see, all the way out to here. And so he did the little procedure, and I'm seeing fine. My eyes are opening. They're getting better every day. I'm on antibiotics mostly and some meds. So, Scott Allen did that I saw you mention that in your post, that you did that a few years ago, stitches and all. And so, yeah, I'm on day 4 since the surgery. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So day 4. And it's better. Believe me, if this is the first you've seen me, it's a lot better today than it was on day 2. Day 1, I thought, I'm going to be okay. It didn't even bruise below my eyes because I didn't do any work down here. But it was day 2 when all of this came out and everything swelled shut, which they said it would do. They said 3 and 4 will be the worst days, and then it will get better. Today's 4. So hopefully by tomorrow and within a week from now, we might start to see, hopefully the bruising dissipates. It's dissipated since yesterday, and into next week. And probably a month from now, you'll never know I had it. Scott, you could tell us, Scott Allen, how long did it take all of your stuff to heal up and you look normal again? So let's see. You do look like somebody hit you across the face with a 2x4. Yeah, Susie Q, you should have seen me yesterday and the day before. It was even worse. You couldn't even see my eyes. My wife said today, Rainey said, I can see your eyes today. So she could see the blue of my eyes. And the first couple of days, it was tough for her. She couldn't even look at my face. She goes, I can't even look at that. She said, kiss me and I'll kiss you, but I'm going to close my eyes because it just made her a little queasy. I said, it's all right. That's what I figure, Scott Allen. It's going to take a month before it's back. It would be funny if you were wearing shades. I was going to bring them in with me. I left them upstairs. I was going to come in with my sunglasses on. So I've been wearing sunglasses when I go out the last couple of days now. I had to run to the grocery store. I had to run the kids places. And I don't want to walk in places with as beat up as my eyes looked. Or believe me, this is not as bad as it looked the last 2 days. And so I just started putting on my sunglasses and wearing. I don't wear sunglasses very often. So, but my eyes are ultra sensitive right now too. And you're supposed to put this ointment on your eyes right here to keep the stitches from drying out and breaking. They say if your stitches break prematurely, it's 3 months before the doctor can do anything about it. They're not supposed. He can't touch it for 3 months. So I've been pretty faithful about that. Now I've lost the tube somewhere. I, of course, took it and moved it from the place where I had it since I've been home with this, and I can't find it anywhere. So if any of you have some good, what's the word I'm looking for? Not psychic ability, vision. Oh, for Pete's sake, the where you can see other places. Why am I slipping on that term? If you can see where my tube is, let me know. Yeah, I'm afraid to rub my eyes in my sleep too. I don't wear a mask, and they told me I had to sleep sitting up. They said if you can, use a recliner. So I've been sleeping upstairs on the sofa with the thing around the back of my neck, and I haven't rubbed, but I'm not clairvoyant, Randall. Remote viewer. If we've got any remote viewers out there and you want to find my tube of ointment for me, I thought it was down here in the studio or in the bedroom somewhere. I'm not finding it anywhere. So I pretty much camped out for 4 days on the sofa, and I've been really worn out. And now I've been a little sick to my stomach today. And I thought this is all, I guess, from anesthetic and all of that. Scott, did you get that when you had this? I take the antibiotics, and I've just been woozy the last few days. So I thought maybe it was a hangover from all of that. So anyway, that's the update on that. That's why we skipped Friday. That's why we skipped Sunday morning. I just wasn't up to it. And so tonight, as you can tell, I can talk, I can sit, I can communicate, but, oh, you didn't take antibiotics. Yeah, they put me on them right away. And I think the little tube of stuff is even antibiotic ointment as well. So I'm doing okay today. That's all. I'm happy to report about that. Looks pretty improved. Thank you, Sarah. She saw a picture of when it was not so improved. And so it was pretty tough. And I got a couple up on my Facebook from the last couple of days. So yeah, it's better today. So trust me. But I can't open my eyes really wide. I try so I can see. I blink. And my eyes are a little, mattery. It's all that junk. And I do pull down just a little bit on this. Try to open my eyes a little bit. But I can't stretch this up because I'll rip the stitches out. So I can't do any of that. So I was feeling a little blah the last couple of days. But hopefully by tomorrow, day 5, it'll start to get better. And now this topic tonight. So I segued into that, from that to my medical stuff. That's about as much medical as I know. And I grabbed this topic because I saw a little video today. And it was of a Catholic priest speaking about fetal microchimerism. And I thought, what is that? And so his take on it is very Catholic. I've got about a 4.5-minute video that hopefully I can play without it trying to ban my feed. Remember, like we tried to do with, I think we went 6 minutes in when we were playing that one clip on consciousness by, see, I'm all about slipping on names and stuff today. I did the same thing before. Political guy, got in all kinds of trouble and lawsuits and all that. And the globalists he'd talk about, and Alex Jones. And so I played about 6 minutes of that, and then I got a big warning. They were shutting down my feed. So let's see if we can do this. I grabbed it from there. I didn't see it on YouTube, but I had to go to YouTube to actually be able to download the video. So I've got the video downloaded, and I want you to get. I was trying to think of what place I would put that video in this program, because I want you to see what we had to say about it. And there's this article I saw, A Stranger to Oneself, the mystery of fetal microchimerism. Does anybody know what that is? Without looking it up, have you ever heard the term before? I thought the chimerism had something to do with chimera, because the word is structured the same. But microchimerism in fetal. So during pregnancy, fetal cells invade maternal tissues, and they can persist for decades, maybe even the rest of the mother's life. But the effects of those non-self cells remain largely obscure. So the idea is, did you know, women, that when you give birth to a child, or when you, even before birth, when you are impregnated, when you have a child growing inside you, that science has now found and identified that you have cells left over from the fetus that are not your cells. Now, the reason I found this fascinating was because with the whole abortion argument and all of that, which I don't really want to get into very strongly, but the idea that I keep hearing is that this is my body, a woman will say. I have rights over my body. And while it's true that a woman will carry a fetus until it turns into a baby and she gives birth to it, that is part of her body that's nurturing that. But now we're finding that body that was in her left unique, individualistic cells inside that mother that are not the mother's cells. So in essence, in short, what she has done by bearing a baby is that she has created, along with her husband, they've created, or the man, whatever. I don't need to be political correct with you guys, or woke. They made a baby. That baby carries unique cells. And those unique cells belong to that baby. They were not created by the mother. The mother does not have those cells. They were left as residual cells after the child was born. And the very interesting thing is that, let's see, I got to see what Sarah's saying. My eyes are just a little more blurry than, chimerism is what I thought, Sarah. And I keep hearing it pronounced chimerism on this guy's video. It's chimerism because I thought it was chimera, was the root of the word. So, shape-shifting, says Scott Allen, yes. It's like mosaicism in tortoiseshell cats. And there you go. So, she says, that's why you still go for the security deposit, even though it's a 9-month rental. There you go. Scott Allen said, my buddy's wife has been a surrogate a couple of times. Couldn't carry a baby to term for someone who, carrying a baby to term for someone who couldn't. Yes. Now, the interesting thing about that is that baby has left cells that are unique to that baby and not unique at all to the mother in the mother. And so the mother will always carry those cells with her. I'm going to play this little video, and don't anybody be weirded out because it's a Catholic priest that I've got that's doing this little video. But I want you to hear it before we go into talking about it a little more. And the only reason I found this fascinating was because not only is it a hot political issue that kind of gets tackled a little bit here with this, but it is also an issue that I found very intriguing because I didn't know this. So let me do this. Let's play this little video. So everybody, it's 4.5 minutes. Let's see if it will let me play the whole 4.5 minutes before it gets mad at me. because it's YouTube, and we'll see where it goes. This is Father John Calloway with the Catholic Church, and he talks about this microchimerism in the mother. Ready? Here we go. Watch this.
So I started reading it, and I'm like, whoa, holy moly. I'm like, what the heck is this? It was just a secular, pure scientific thing, but it talked about this thing called, here's the word, fetal microchimerism. Write that puppy down, okay? Fetal microchimerism. The chimerism is CH, not a K. Okay, it's a hard CH. Fetal microchimerism. So some scientists in different universities around the world had discovered this on just a secular level. They were doing studies on women in like Sweden, even in Washington State and a couple of places around the world simultaneously, on women. And they discovered that during these research, some of the women got sick because it was a long-term study. And they found that there were cells in these women's bodies, living cells, that were not hers. And they were like, okay, this is interesting. What do we make of this? And they discovered that when these women were sick, they thought, well, these cells, through their studies, are the cells of her children. Now, some of these women had not been a mother in the physical sense of having a baby in them recently at all, like a long time ago. But they discovered that it was the cells of their children, living cells, still in her body. But they thought, well, this doesn't bode well for motherhood. It looks like the cells of her children are causing the illness. This is not good. They kept studying. Guess what they discovered? Oh, that's not the case. It's the opposite. When a mother becomes sick, the cells of her children, all the children she's had, rush to the area of her body to fight for her life. Scientifically proven. Fetal microchimerism. Whoa! But some amazing things were discovered as well, other than that. Many of these women, when they were having the testing done, didn't put down that they were mothers. So the scientists were confused because there are cells in your body that are not yours, and you didn't put that you were a mother. This is weird. Well, they were, but they didn't put certain things on there. Maybe out of embarrassment or just, it's difficult to deal with. Miscarriage, right? So many women experience that, but you're a mother. But they didn't put it on there. But then it was understood, oh, okay, well, you were a mother, right? And you had the baby there for a period of time, because this cellular exchange happens within the first trimester of the pregnancy. Amazing stuff. But then there were others who said that they didn't have a miscarriage. You know what they said they had had? An abortion. Yeah. Making obviously the wrong decision, terminating the pregnancy, taking the life of the child, a horrible decision, of course. But you're a mother. And isn't it ironic that the life that was terminated now fights for yours? Yeah. Scientifically proven. Fetal microchimerism. And the studies are still being done because they found that women still, in their old age, still have cells of their children alive in their bodies, fighting for them. This is mind-blowing stuff. Mind-blowing. One of the scientists in one of these articles, because after that I did a whole bunch of research, one of them was kind of making a funny, he said, we've always thought that mothers have an intuition, a sixth sense. My mother would. I could come home and be faking a smile, and she'd be like, Donnie, what's wrong? I'm like, how do you do that? How do you know, right? Well, this guy said, it's not like mom's watching over your shoulder. She's in your shoulder. Why? Because it happens both ways. All of you right now have living cells of your mother in your body right now. Even if your mother is no longer here, she's already deceased. She's still here on a cellular level in your body. That's amazing. Sometimes people will say in life, and rightly so, it's just we never fully understood it. If a mother experiences the death of a child, or when like a child experiences the death of a mother, what do we say? Part of me died when my mom died. Yeah, literally. Now, scientifically, this is proven. This is incredible.
Okay. Now, I know, Sarah, I figured that this would be something, Sarah, over in our chat room, would be something that you would have found very interesting and that you had no doubt run across before and understood before. And by the way, if you are over in the Instagram listening, I see a few people over there. Jack, good to see you. Catherine, good to see you. You can come over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts, if you want to join the chat room tonight, which you can do. It'd be fun. There are a bunch of people over there already. So, Sarah, I figured that it was something that you have had experience with before or known about. To me, it blew my mind. Now, we all know that a child that is offspring of a mother is going to carry the mother's DNA. Obviously, going to carry the mother's cells. They're going to carry the father's cells. What I found very interesting, though, was that and this is what kind of blew my mind a little bit, was the child that was formed in the womb, of course, is getting its mom's cells, but it's creating its own cells, and it's leaving those or depositing them with the mother. And so the mother has something that was not once part of her, now in her, in something that's growing inside her. So it's like the unique creature that's growing inside her womb is now leaving residuals of itself in the mother as well. Now, I would always think that there would be cellular exchange and all of that because the baby's growing inside the mom. Now, could it be that the cells of the father and the mother combined when creating this new life have created something that didn't exist before? And while it carries all the DNA and cellular structure of both mom and dad, it creates its own unique cellular structure. And it leaves that with the mom. And that the mom's cells, of course, will always be in the child. So, Sarah says the mixed cells produced variations of proteins, etc. That's mutations. There you go. And we can use, hoity-toity science words like mutation, like that's a hoity-toity science word. We can use those words. Symbiosis, says Elderberry. Exactly. By the way, Elderberry, since I see you there, I have not worked on any of your paintings for the last 4.5 days. So I couldn't open my eyes enough to do it. So in the next few days, we'll be back on that. Just so you know, there's a little private message publicly to Elderberry. All right. So as I look deeper into this, I wanted to know more about this because it just sounded cool. It was an amazing thing to me. And it was, as I've got a bunch of information up on here. In 1893, George Schmorl, he was a pathologist at the University of Leipzig. He made an astonishing discovery during his studies of eclampsia, which, if you guys don't know what that is, women usually do during pregnancy. You can get eclampsia. I don't know all the medical junk behind it. It's something you can get while you are giving birth or you have a child that you are carrying. And it can be deadly if not taken care of. But at the time, eclampsia is one of the most common causes of maternal mortality. It was poorly understood, and effective treatments didn't exist at the time in the late 1800s. So to investigate the etiology of the disease, Schmorl took on the somewhat macabre test of performing autopsies on 17 women who died from eclampsia. And although he identified abnormalities in many organs, it was in the examination of the lungs that he observed something very peculiar. Large multinuclear cells similar to those found in the placenta, an organ derived from embryonic cells. So more than a century later, Modern scientific techniques have enabled researchers to confirm that the fetal cells enter maternal circulation as well as various tissue types through the body. And this phenomenon, the presence of a small number of cells that are genetically different from the rest of the organism, is now known as microchimerism. And pregnancy is thought to be the most common cause of microchimerism. And just as the mother obtains her cells from the fetus, maternal cells also make their way into the fetal tissues, and where they may impact development of the brain, the immune system, and so on. And however, a microchimerism can also result from blood transfusions, organ transplants, sharing the womb with another fetus. So in humans, scientists have identified chimeric cells in all kinds of maternal organs, including the kidney, the liver, the spleen, the lung, the heart, the brain. And although their numbers steeply decline postpartum, women can harbor them for decades after they give birth, sometimes the rest of their lives, even into old age. And science, though, understands actually very little about their roles in maternal health. Are they helpful? Is it harmful? Is it merely a byproduct of maternal fetal exchange of substances across the placenta? So in part, this knowledge gap is due to the fact that there's generally very few of these cells, and they are difficult to detect. And there was a guy, Petra Arck, A-R-C-K, who was a maternal and fetal immunity researcher at the University Medical Center, Hamburg-Eppendorf. And this rarity hinders their study and fuels skepticism among the scientific community. There's this belief that rare cell matter, this is said by the way, Amy Boddy, B-O-D-D-Y, Boddy, who studies evolution, human health, microchimerism at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Scientists also linked this lack of knowledge to the general dearth of research on women's health, especially during pregnancy. Pregnancy is very often seen as, well, a time when we need to protect women from research, but not through research. That's why pregnant women are often left out of the clinical trials or vaccine trials or anything else. This is why the field is not as advanced as it could be. We just don't know very much about women's health in general, Boddy said. And despite all these challenges, microchimerism researchers have soldiered on, thinking that there's some pretty good evidence and support to show that these aren't cells that are just a byproduct of pregnancy. There's a function here, and we should figure out what that function is, so said the doctors. So studies in humans have hinted that chimeric cells may play this important role in maternal health or function as indicators of disease. For example, during pregnancy, a greater number of fetal organ cells in maternal blood was associated with preeclampsia and severe hypertension. Now, by the way, I've got to say here too, that while all this research is going on, they want to know more. Women have been given birth to children and carrying children for hundreds of thousands of years. So it would seem that now, we're doing these studies on this now, and they've got to know more, but this is something that's been going on since the beginning, since day one. So chimeric cells might be relevant long after pregnancy as well. The presence of these cells in maternal scar tissue has led researchers to hypothesize that they may be involved in the healing and tissue regeneration. These cells that are created when the new life is created. Something the mother didn't have before the fetus was there. Something she didn't get from the father, but something that was made by the combination of their cells to create the baby, which left its own genetic or cellular mark on the mother. that was individualistic from the mom. Sarah says in the chat room, it's interesting if there's a link between energetic and muscle memory and this. Maybe there is. And by the way, the interesting thing I found was that this is something, this cellular, what do you want to call it? This cellular infusion from the baby to the mother is something that connects the mother for the rest of their lives. It's always there. Rarely dissipates. Hey, Michelle Kenham 3. Good to see you in the chat room tonight. Michelle says preeclampsia is now known as pregnancy-induced hypertension. Oh, see, I didn't know that. I think Rainey had some preeclampsia with one of the children. I'm not positive of that. I believe she did. She would have to be here to correct me on that. Or else they were afraid of it starting or something. I don't know what it was. But did you know that all of this, these chimeric cells, they've been spotted in the thyroids of women with Hashimoto's disease? My wife, Rainey, has Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And there's a lot of women that have that. And something incredible to me, I don't know how new that is, but when my wife 10 years ago first was diagnosed with that, they didn't know anything about it. They didn't really know how to treat it. And women prior to that time, before they discovered or identified the Hashimoto's, they kind of thought it was just women being a little crazy, postpartum especially. And they chalked it off to female craziness, for lack of a better way to put it. And that's not the too olden days. That's not long ago. So this Hashimoto's disease, it's where the body produces antibodies against thyroid proteins, implicating chimeric cells in the development of autoimmune disease. They've turned up in cancers of the lung, the skin, the cervix, the breast. And researchers have variously hypothesized that these cells may exert anti-tumor effects via immunosurveillance or orogenic. See, these aren't terms I use every day. Tumorigenic effects by promoting angiogenesis. That's heart. Angiogenesis are other forms of tissue growth. And sometimes they've thought that some of the negative things that happen to women as a result of this chimeric effect is where it attacks their systems, that they say that that's the cells protecting something it doesn't against something it doesn't recognize. Sarah says feminine hysteria is an excuse for people to not listen. That's what my wife found. It's been very frustrating for her with the whole Hashimoto's syndrome. And these studies are largely correlational. While researchers have caught the chimeric cells at the scene of the crime, so to speak, it's much more difficult to determine their roles in these processes. And, or as my old boss from New York, you say processes. And are the cells contributing to pathology? Or are they trafficking to the site to fight disease? Or have they simply been caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? The answer is likely incredibly complicated. So there's Anne Catherine Staff, who's a medical fetal medicine researcher at Oslo University Hospital, something I am not at all. So my understanding of these things is about this deep. She hypothesizes that the number or characteristics of fetal chimeric cells both influences and is influenced by pathological processes. We have to be really open, she says, when we're thinking about the framework for this instead of thinking in black and white. And figuring this out will require careful and methodological research to fill in all the gaps that are left by earlier piecemeal efforts by scientists who identified these cells in various types of diseased tissue, but were unable to investigate further due to the technological limitations of the time. So Thomas Cronus said we need to get into the basics of microchimerism biology. Now, he studies rare cells, including microchimeric cells, at the Medical University of Graz. So now Cronus and many other researchers are adopting new technologies to revisit fundamental questions about the locations, identities of these not quite self cells. Not quite self. It's something else. And they're hoping to build this foundation of knowledge that's going to be able to enable mechanism studies for their roles in health and disease processes. But there's a Y in the ointment. You see what I did there? In the absence of controlled and unethical breeding trials, human microchimerism is tricky to investigate. Historically, researchers have identified chimeric cells in all these maternal tissues using fluorescence and in situ hybridization to label any errant Y chromosomes in a woman who had given birth to sons. However, this technique has some important limitations. First, researchers can't use it to study chimerism in instances where children are female. This is problematic, as the research suggests, that the quantity of chimeric cells is greater when the fetus is female, indicating that differences in fetal sex might just affect the process related to microchimerism. And perhaps more concerningly, this technique resulted in the puzzling findings that some women who had never given birth to sons still had male cells in their bodies. In one study, researchers found that the prevalence of male microchimerism was not significantly different in women with and without sons, nor did it seem to be affected by having a male twin, although it's trended toward increased prevalence in women with their older brothers. Professor Bauer's in the room. Good to see you. The earliest studies that they have for the Y chromosome, because of the technology that was available, you could determine that those cells weren't from the mom, but you readily couldn't determine if they were from the baby either. So they don't know whose cells they are. So with technological advancements, research has become more sophisticated. It's pretty standard now to genotype the mother and the baby and then look for markers that don't overlap. We typically look at the HLA, the human leukocyte antigen, because we know that's a variable region in the genome, they're saying. Because we look for a unique baby fingerprint, a region of DNA that the baby has the mother doesn't. So this enables researchers to identify cells that don't belong, but also be reasonably sure that they're in fact from the fetus, opening the door for a new generation of research into the complexities of microchimerism. Now, here's a question, and I saw that Delaney Pearl Jones, was here in the chat room a little earlier. She said, yep, me and both my sons are telepathic in our communication. And I wanted to ask her or anyone else, what do you think of that aspect of this? The psychic ability, if you will, intuitive ability, telecommunication ability. Is that linked to something that is cellular? How did you put it again? You're telepathic in your communication. Telecommunication would be telephones. Telepathology. It's part genetic and part learned behavior. Says Sarah. Is any of it, do you suppose, outside the realm of genetic and or learned behavior. Do you think any of this is something that is what do we find many times? What we've mistaken for spiritual activity is really medical activity or physical activity or something that goes on in the body, the chemicals in the body, the brain, the mind. Does the mind have brain chemicals and cells, or is it the brain that has chemicals and cells? The mind is something different. It's like saying the heart. So it's a perspective of taking in data, says Sarah. So some things like that can run family lines. They claim that things run family lines. Yeah, there you go. And it's very possible. I know a couple of my children, my younger children, have some of the things that their mom has. Seeing spirits, sensing them. What is the physical perception? Not clairvoyance. There's another word for it. It's not clairvoyance. It's not audiovoyant. It's there's a different term for it. Doesn't matter. It'll come to me. But clairsentient, being able to be clairvoyantly connect to, see, hear beings outside the physical realm. Psychometry, maybe, but sentience was the word I was looking for. So anybody have any experience knowing anything about that? I find it all fascinating. So let's go on with this just a little bit. I saw some other things, and there's a lot of data on this. Whether you can actually, everything's not necessarily defined, but there is a link between baby cells and mom's disease risk. You found that. There's a question that's been asked out there. Why does a mom's risk for rheumatoid arthritis skyrocket when her baby has a gene that protects against it? Why is that gene not hopping on board? Sarah says, I'm dead as a doornail in that respect. What? No kids? Yeah. So, they might grow up, our kids. They might move out of the house, but some part of a mother's child always stays with her, even though it wasn't hers to begin with. It comes from the child. New cellular structures that the mom didn't possess before the child was made. Sometimes it can be a bad break for mom. Now, there's this new study at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. They have, for the first time, identified the two-way traffic between mom and fetus known as microchimerism, but that can sometimes harm mom years later. So during this exchange in pregnancy, cells flow back and forth between mother and child. They can take up residence in another's body for decades. But the researchers discovered how those fetal immigrants can contribute to mom's risk of rheumatoid arthritis, while at the same time offering cellular protection against other things. A painful autoimmune disease where the body's immune system attacks its own joints. It turns out that some of these alien cells can trigger mom's immune system to go on the offensive, much like a transplant recipient's body might reject a donor organ. That same respect. We've known about the association of microchimerism with autoimmune diseases for a long time, said Dr. Sami Kanan, the lead researcher on the study and a staff scientist at the Lab of Microchimerism expert, Dr. J. Lee Nelson. But why? But the why behind this association remained mysterious. There's a mechanism related to one particular disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and that's it. And the answer solves a paradox identified a couple of years ago by researchers elsewhere. Why does a mother's risk for rheumatoid arthritis increase when her baby has gene variants that supposedly protect against it? It's a good question. When someone has the protective gene variant, they end up with a bit of protein called DERAA. It's all in caps, DERAA. And the letters refer to a sequence of the amino acids that make up the protein bit that protects against rheumatoid arthritis. So when you inherit this little helpful bit of code from your mom or your dad, your immune system is always going to recognize it as self and not react to it. But it's a different story when mom gets cells from her baby with DERA in them. Her immune system, like that of everyone who wasn't born with DERA sequence, is on the lookout for it. And that's because it just happens to show up in some bacteria and viruses. In fact, roughly 2/3 of bacteria contain the DERA. So our immune systems likely evolved to detect and attack DERA, thinking it's a bacterial invader. But if mom's immune system runs into a fetal cell with DERA, it starts to rev up. And unfortunately, some proteins in particular locations of the human body, including the joints, also contain DERA sequence. I've got rheumatoid arthritis starting in my hands. Probably in other places too, but that's where I feel it the most. So, and of course, we all know these proteins in the joints get caught in the crosshairs. The result's inflammation, painful condition that's rheumatoid arthritis. I haven't been inflamed with mine yet, but I feel it from time to time. And at least that's the diagnosis my doc gave me. I said, why does my index finger hurt? And of course, I've been drawing and painting with these fingers for a long time. Maybe that's accelerated it. But by explaining how microchimerism can trigger rheumatoid arthritis, the study could help open the doors to new therapies for other kinds of diseases. It could also lead to tests that would predict the most severe cases, which could help guide treatment. Now, the new study concluded that mothers who carry their child's DERA cells are 17 times more likely to develop rheumatoid arthritis. But despite its ability to cause harm, microchimerism can help too. The researchers in Nelson's lab years ago described how pregnant women with rheumatoid arthritis can actually see their symptoms improve. They also found hints that fetal cells can provide protection against breast cancer, and that maternal cells can contribute to cells that produce insulin in the child. So there's all kinds of mysteries about microchimerism, and they need to be solved, researched, dug out, solved. But we can be sure of one thing. We often think of ourselves as one discrete individual, said Nelson. But really, we all contain cells from others, including our mothers. We think of the self as being more like an ecosystem. You are never alone, he concludes. And the thing about it is, you would understand fully that a child would have some of the cells of its mother and father, but that the mother would get cells from the child that did not exist in her or the father first, means that child that is her body inside her is an individual. It's creating its own cells. And it's leaving them with their mothers. What do you think of that? What are your thoughts on this? Curious to know how you think of this. Hey, Kalina. She says, I can always tell if there's something is up with my son, physically and mentally. The gut feeling, she says. Antigen antibody reaction. That's very possible. Is that where that comes from? So, I don't know. Sarah Yusuf says it depends on the type of gene expression. She's referring to something a little earlier. Genetic diversity is king. It is. So, I found this very interesting today because it was exploring another question which I brought up, and that is, could this be part of the explanation that you always say that I never hear, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I don't hear women or men say, I inherited this gift of psychic ability or intuitive perception or whatever the gift is, I inherited it from my dad. I never say that. It always seems to go down the maternal lines. It's not that the men don't sometimes are an offshoot and experience some of that. Obviously, they have it at times. Sarah says it's in the chat room, it's like passing down a type of history. So I would be interested to know, and I want to look into this a little bit more, unless some of you have a handle on this already. I'd like to know if we think or can find that any of this passing on from mother to daughter has anything to do with this. I see over there on the Instagram page, thank you, Michelle Kenham-Free. I appreciate that. The ancient Maya have a saying, she says, in Lakech, meaning, you are another me. This is literal, as science has proven. Excellent. Excellent point. Thank you for that, Michelle. So there we go. That's what we got for tonight. I'm going to open up the captain's cabin for a little bit of discussion, not much, because I'm about tapped. I've been rather on the edge, as you can tell, because I talked earlier in the show about my eyes surgery I had. It has the drugs and things they've had me on, and whatever is going on with it has kept me very tired out the last few days. Although I feel pretty good right now, I'm not going to go too much longer. But let's go out for a little break. We'll come back. Stick around, and maybe we can discuss this a little bit. I noticed our numbers really dropped during this show. And I'm wondering if this is a topic that just a lot of people don't have interest in. I think that's why I bring in the spiritual aspect to say, I think there is things that could be of interest to all of us from very different points of view. So anyway, I'm going to go out for a few minutes. We'll come back. We may only stick around for a few minutes. We'll see what's going on. So if you've got to leave now and you're not going to be here when I get back, I would just say, live long and prosper. The rest of you, sit tight. We'll be right back.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hi, my dad. He can take me to Disneyland.
Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. Well, and welcome to the captain's cabin. I almost could wear an eye patch today. I've got Dave's eye patch sitting around here somewhere, his old one. And so glad you all stuck around. Thanks for being here. We'll go for a little bit today, not too much, because I gotta call it a day pretty soon here. So Sarah says, women in science gotta represent. Well, there you go. Represent what? What are you saying there? I want to make sure I'm understanding your word structure. Unless it goes back to this. You said I hear a lot of stories of especially being passed down, being passed down the maternal line. It's hard to pin down since there's rare culture encouraging discussion. Yeah, isn't that the truth? So the only time you catch discussion like that is when you are amongst people that want to talk about those things. It's like my friend Amanda, who's shown up in the chat room a couple of times. Not Amanda Berry from Australia, but Amanda from here in Minnesota. She's now down in Florida. Very good friend of mine. We were very close. And her mom is a witch and she is a witch. They've inherited those things. And I believe her mom before her. And so those are things that I have understood about them. And that they have this inherited thing. I know my daughters have certain things. Maybe even my son a little bit. And they catch that from Rainey. So Sarah's coming in. You come on in, Sarah. Let's bring you in and we'll talk a little bit. I'm not long for the night, but we'll do what we can. So, what now was I looking at? I found the show very interesting, says Michelle Canterbury. Thank you very much for that. It's atypical of the kind of show I do, but I found it a fascinating topic. So there you go. Well, get in here, Sarah. I'm stalling. So how's everybody else over there in the chat room? Elderberry says, get rest. I will be very shortly. And Kalina says there's also research going on about pluripotential stem cells from the placenta, how they can help with curing diseases. Yeah. It's not brain stem cells, it's placenta, correct? That's interesting to me. So, hey, there's JP. Doing good, he says. I didn't see you earlier, so this might be the first you're commenting in here. Good to see you, JP. Got any thoughts on any of this stuff? Loving our Indian summer in Wisconsin. Me too, Michelle. It's going to be in the 80s all week. While we had, I think 62 was our high on Saturday. Beautiful. Bright blue sky with puffy white clouds and gorgeous weather. See, now that's my kind of weather. You put me in the 60s with a bright blue sunny sky. We can take a little rain every few days, and then it's good. Could be that way year-round for me. But I like autumn. So we're having what they call Indian summer now, and it's going to be hot for at least another week. It might even hit us again in October. It always does. And then it gets cold. I joined right as cabin was about to start. I was playing Fallout with my friends, says JP. So, yeah, it was an interesting topic. You might get a little residual feedback. Can you see us in the back? I don't see you here, Sarah. I don't see you coming in. If that's what you meant by that. So, I want to do a show on Kendall Blanchard was over in the Instagram chat, and he said something about he and his father both have had out-of-body experiences. I don't know, Kendall, if you're considering that the same as remote viewing, but again, I've talked about these things before. I want to do a show on them. I want to get somebody on this show that is a remote viewer, and not just somebody who, I know this guy, and you talk to him and you go, yeah, I had an experience once. No, I want somebody who does this actively. I've got to see if I can get a hold of that guy. I would be interested to get a hold of that guy my mom knew, who she introduced me to, 20 years ago or more. But I know there are other peoples. So that I think it's the start of the captain's cabin, Kalina. The numbers always go down at the end of the radio show, then up at the beginning of the captain's cabin. So that's good. StreamYard says the stream has ended. Well, you can see me here, though, correct? Let's see. StreamYard. I'm in StreamYard right now. It says I'm live, and it gives me the option to end the stream. So the stream is still playing. Let's see. I don't think I can give you a fresh link without shutting down this broadcast, but I can give you the link to the show. Again, let's try that. If you can't get in here right now, I'll paste it here, and you can take it and paste it into your browser window. Here is the link to the show, if that's what you're saying. And here is the invite. Let me get the invite to come in to the chat or come into and call me. There's that right there. So 2 different links. Oh, no, I guess they're the same. They are the same. That's to call into the show. Where is the actual show itself? I thought I put that in. Well, now I see Sarah. There you are. Oh, now you went away. I was just going to go click on you and you went away. So let's see. The links I just posted those are all the same link, but that's not the link to the show. There's Sarah again. Let me see if I got you this time. You there, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there we go. Because you came in and then you went out. Now you're back in.
Yeah, the thing, it didn't like something. I don't know.
So
but it's the
something was
same issue
saying-
that you had last week, I think, too. So
Yeah, that
something
happened
with
once last week.
the links on the, that's attached to the page. Maybe they've changed or something.
That's interesting. So, because I can go over there now, I'll bet you. If I go over here now and I click on the link to the show that I posted tonight, there it is.
Yeah, the one that you posted in the chat is working. That's how I was able to get in. But the one on that's pinned to the stream on the bottom,
though.
I tried using that twice.
Oh,
and it ended.
That's giving me a different show for some reason.
Yeah.
That's taking me to a different show altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really odd. That's bad. That's maybe why we were so low in numbers for some people, because that looks like the wrong link, but that is not. Hold on. I'm in the wrong place. That's why. Good grief. It's in the totally wrong place. Hold on. I'm just checking this because you're here. Yeah, it's still playing on Facebook. And if I open it up here, oh, I see why it is. Folks, I gave you the wrong chat link altogether. Because it's different. Studio call in. Let's see how different this is. You're trying to, well, I've got that already, but there's if I click on the link for the show, there, it brings me into the live show. So
Yeah.
the show is playing. Boom. There. Now that we've got that determined, let's move on. So what's on your mind tonight, Sarah?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed the topic, and I know a lot of women in the chat were enjoying the topic, the change of science, and
yes,
I was hoping some of our other Intrepid ladies in science would join us, but considering their link issues,
ladies should call in.
They should.
So.
It's ladies in science got to represent, like I was saying.
That's right.
But particularly around the areas of pregnancy and hysteria and things related to women. I mean, culturally, there has been kind of like an iffiness to it.
Yeah.
In terms of like if you in the early 1900s, the whole thing with Freud and hysteria. These women that were going through issues such as being raped or PTSD, all this stuff, and they were told that they were just being hysterical whenever there's an underlying issue. So and you were talking earlier about people have been having babies since the beginning of time.
Yes.
So I mean, you can also see the differences. If you consider the culture and what we have now, not even just in a regional area, but compared to how we were earlier as cave people. I mean, we are completely different. We're not running around for tens of miles and hunting and gathering. Totally different diet. I mean, for all we know, and for all science knows, we're supposed to live 900 years old, but we've been having all this poisonous bread and milk. Making us, live up to 80 or 100 if we're lucky. But
sure.
But the thing is, especially with science, and a lot of people nowadays, they not tend to poo-poo science, but they understand that, having theories and, having evidence to back those theories, it's all a matter of data interpretation. because, you can make the data say one thing, that you're trying to prove or disprove,
Right.
and say, and that tends to let people, say, oh, they're just saying this, they made it sound like this, or there's
Well,
intentionality behind it, to have more evidence to support a certain theory, or, like people
and
talk
well,
about,
that was some of the
climate change.
research. The original research on all of this microchimerism was stating that it looks like there are cells from the baby that are attacking the mother. But then they're finding, oh, wait, but there's a lot of these cells that are protecting her as well. So it's
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
that would, that, like we said earlier, it boils down to gene expression. And gene expression, certain genes produce certain proteins, and then proteins, they're associated, like with T cells, they are immunoresponses, that, kind of the similar way vaccinations work, that you introduce the proteins into the T cells, they get, eaten up and adopted. And then, like, say, if you have a cold or a type of flu, then they're able to fight it off faster, because
Yes.
the way T cells will work, they'll throw every type of protein, it's like throwing the kitchen sink at it, seeing what sticks, right? I mean, that's
Yes.
basically what happens when you get sick. So, I mean, so it's interesting. And it's like we say, genetic diversity is king. So the more types of, not even on a protein level, you have proteins, hormones, everything is sort of defined by, our genetics. And then we have the intermixing of, there's no such thing as just a kid having pure mom or pure dad. They all intermix.
Right.
Like in a kid, you have some gene expressions are more dominant than other gene expressions. Like some kids may look more like their mother or their father, have a particular
Because it's
type of
interesting. My
nose.
first three children all look very much like me, have a
Mhm.
lot of my physical traits,
Right.
facial traits, and so on. My second three children all favor Rainey.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's all gene expression, that in itself has its own types of complications in terms of the type of proteins that are produced. Because we simplify it and think it's like an on-off switch, but
Right.
there are certain types of expressions that are currently on all the time until another protein comes by and say, hey, let's turn it off, and then that's what happens during aging as well.
Sure.
You stop producing certain types of chemicals and hormone changes.
Truth.
And the women go through menopause. You go through like you were talking earlier about arthritis. So it's all based on that sort of a gene expression. So if we
Michelle
ever could
Canham
get
Free,
science,
she said our longevity was tampered with. Michelle, what do you mean by that? In what way was it tampered with? Do you mean by current medicine, or by, are you talking about mother's longevity is tampered with by the cellular genetics of a child growing in her? How do you mean that our longevity was tampered with? Or are you talking on a total esoteric realm? Be
it's probably
curious to know
both.
what you think about that. Probably.
I mean, we always talk about, in outside influences affecting us, whether it's, what we eat or consider quote unquote healthy,
Yeah.
Some people say, they say if you, there was an interesting Netflix documentary I was just watching earlier. I think it's it's called You Are What You Eat or something. And
Yes.
it was explaining, the benefit, they did a Stanford study between, a 6-week study between twins, like sets of twins, about going for 6 weeks on a vegan diet versus a omnivorous diet, where you can have meat and, all that stuff, meat and vegetable and all that. And for the most part, it was kind of evened out, but in terms of, I'm not a big proponent of veganism. Some people are, they're very gung-ho about it, but they were saying like that people who are on a vegan diet, their DNA tends to last longer. They have longer telomeres, so you have less degradation. So it's almost like a reverse aging effect. Then
Okay.
and then so reducing the amount of protein. And then they get into the environmental aspects and all that. I mean, it's a big complicated issue. It was a big complicated basis what we think. I mean, we think as milk is healthy, in which there's just such a thing. We make jokes about we're affected by big milk. The
sure.
big milk is out to the big beef lobby is out to program.
Sure.
How we ended up with beef. It's what's for dinner, or got milk.
It's what's for dinner.
Right. And what is supposed to be considered a healthy part of diet. And, it's like everything in moderation. But I mean, there's that, they're doing studies.
Sure.
And then consider what the diet was like for somebody 50,000 years ago. We were still having babies. We don't have we didn't have saturated fats.
Right. Right.
So, I mean,
that's
we're responsible.
Good questions, and things
Yeah.
we've developed. Yes. That are supposed to be for the better, which aren't necessarily so. So,
and and there's always influence. I mean, at any given time, I mean, with some fluctuation, there is about, it's not sometimes leans towards one way or the other. The population is, roughly 49, 52, or 51, or whatever you want to consider it. In terms of women's health, it is hard. In me working in the healthcare field, and it's hard for just for preventative care, or why there are people who say, why do we need to invest into women's health? If half the population are men, it has, that's women thing. You don't have anything to do with us, which, in reality it does. They're both intimately intertwined.
And I just want to say to Elderberry, watch my eyes. I'm blinking Morse code. Anyway, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's probably concerned that we need to send adult protective services.
Yes.
Send out the ACP. But
she told somebody at work. I went up to where she works yesterday.
Don't touch your face.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just covering my eyes. The brightness sometimes. I was sitting at the orthodontist with Rowan today in the office, and I just had to cover my eyes. And they said, we have sunglasses, because they put sunglasses on the kids when they're under the lights.
Yeah.
And so she got me a pair of extra large sunglasses. So I got a red pair and a blue pair. And I forgot to bring them down.
Yeah.
But and I forgot what I was going to say. Oh,
I mean, everything is intertwined.
It's kind of funny. We went in to see Rainey at work yesterday, and it's pretty loose up there. So we stopped in, and they were all joking around about Rainey was talking about my eyes. I'm kind of saying, one of the women at work said, she leaned in and she says, she looks at me over Rainey's shoulder. She says, "We can get you help." And Rainey says, "You get away from my man. You don't give him no help." So it was a fun little exchange. So
yeah.
Anyway.
But if we're talking about those cells, that are implanted inside the body, even if you take, 5 showers a day, or we're always having and we're leaving, whether it's our mark within our environment, whether it's energetically, or we're leaving skin cells, hair, oils in the skin, where we touch everything, just being in the room, and developing those types of sensitivities, and like you were saying earlier about women that decide to have abortions, they said they were
Right.
mothers at a certain point,
Right.
so, and all that, you can't, it's not unlearned, it all has an effect. It all.
Sure it does.
So, I mean,
Well,
yeah.
they're saying that even the mothers that have had abortions, that they have these stray cells that are not their own.
Right. Well, I mean, that,
Yeah.
that comes from the act, right? I mean,
Right.
it comes, I mean, in terms of, what is left behind. So, we are always constantly changing, or being affected by certain stimuli or stimuluses.
Well, as interesting as a topic as this is, I'm going to start wrapping it because my eyes are. I hate to just blame it on that. They're stinging, and I got to go do something about my eyes. So it's the light and the computer light and all of that. So my apologies. I could just say, hey, we're going to wrap a little short tonight, but so what was this? Rh negative women need shots, says Michelle Canham. Free, or else their immune systems will destroy the fetus. Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard that. I've read that recently, even. And outlier to your topic. There it is.
Well, it's good to have science once in a while.
Yes, it is.
And I'm
so
sure everybody appreciates that. So.
Well, I am going to take off for the night. I appreciate you being here, Sarah, and talking, and everybody chatting it up about this in the chat room. This is fantastic. I'd like to get a whole panel of you women on here to talk about some of these things. So we'll do this again.
Sure.
So, all right, Sarah.
All right. Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you for being here. See you later. All right, everybody else, guess what? We're going to call it a night. And I hate to use excuses, but I got to go tend to my face, my eyes. And I wasn't sure I was going to come on tonight, and I did anyway, and it worked. We did just fine tonight. So I want to thank you all for being here and for giving me your time. I appreciate it. And we'll see you next time, which will be Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. It's only Monday, right? Yeah. So we'll see you on Wednesday. And pending any disaster in between then and now. So you all have a good night. Thank you for being here. Share this show with somebody you know. The show in general, Intrepid Radio. And let them know we're here and that they can come and listen. And so thank you again. Have a good night. Live long and prosper.